not everybody is on a joint lease. So if you are the one on the lease, or if your ex had moved in with you, this is going to sound harsh, but you're broken up. I often give the example of when I split up from my husband. We were on the lease together, and look, you know what? I one day was just like, you're gone. You're not coming back here. And I just absolutely put my foot down, and it helped me so much.
Welcome to The X-Files, a podcast about breakups, broken hearts, and moving on. I'm Claire.
And I'm Janice. We are breakup coaches, here to help you beat your breakup,
Heal your broken heart,
and move on to an amazing, abundant life.
So welcome everyone to this week's episode. We have a really fun topic this week because, we probably get this every week in the DMs. So we know that this is going to be a very popular episode and one that we've been wanting to do for a while. So today's the day we're recording it. So what if I have to see them every day?
Or AKA, what if I can't go no contact? Because
exactly. That's kind of what
we're making contact. We have to, more or less have to. Yeah, I'm excited about it as well. And yeah, we do get it kind of a lot. And my heart definitely goes out to people who, break up with someone and still have to have some level of contact with them. But you can still rise above it, and you can still tackle it and still heal from it. And that's what we're doing today.
Exactly. So we're pretty outspoken about the benefits of no contact. So it makes sense that people bring up like this one thing that would make no contact kind of hard if your ex is always around. And there's a lot of reasons why this might happen.
Yep. And before we talk about what those reasons are, I thought I might mention, if you do have to see your ex, coaching is especially useful. So we love working one-on-one with people, and this will probably help a lot if this is someone that you have to communicate with or even see. Having a coach to process that with and troubleshoot and action plan around, I think could maybe be the key to solving this. So please, please, please hit us up. We would love to help you if you do have to see them every day or every week. So why could this be? You might have to have contact with your ex if you work with them. Ouch. You co-parent with your ex. Those are probably the top two examples that we hear. You share a class with your ex. How distracting when you're trying to learn. You still live together. Can't imagine.
Yeah, that's a big one I hear about.
Well, I was having major problems with my ex-husband, and we've lived together for a short amount of time, so I do know how horrible that is. Or you're trying to stay friends. Those could all be reasons why you might have to, or why you do have some level of contact with them. So personal experience, I had to go all the way back to high school to remember that I did have a boyfriend, and we broke up, and we did have to see each other every day. And I don't know how pertinent this is because I was a kid then and I'm not now, but it was very hard, and eventually got easier. So, it was one of my first real boyfriends, and I was just shattered when we broke up, and it really hurt. And then, I don't know, by the time we graduated, we were actually quite good friends. So I can promise you that little by little, yes, it does get easier. I also dated someone back in Melbourne who was in my same social network, partially because while we had been going out, I had brought him to everything, which I very much regretted after.
No.
Yeah, he didn't want to break up, and he very much he made sure that he was around, and he definitely was. So I will say for sure it made it more difficult. We did end up sleeping together after seeing each other once, and that made it, just complicated it like crazy. And I will say when we ended that again, I made sure that if I knew he was going to be around, that I wouldn't go to wherever it was. So I did have to be pretty proactive about, changing my schedule because I knew it was better and healthier for me. And then I do have a couple other experiences having to be around people I wasn't on good terms with every day, so that I'll bring into this. And I actually do think that they're quite relevant because it was really hard. I lived with a couple people for a short amount of time, and none of us were on good terms with each other. It was after my divorce. I was kind of confused about life, making lots of poor decisions, and had moved in with some people who I didn't really know, and it just didn't work out. Let's just put it that way. And yeah, coming and going from the apartment was really difficult. I absolutely hated it. And I was extremely proactive about getting out of there. So I can relate to that, not wanting to go home because this person is there, living with someone you have conflict with. And yeah, I did really anything I could to sign over my lease and get the hell out because it was bad for my mental health for sure. And then I was in a very, very, very toxic work environment for a while in Melbourne and had to be around these people who were, flat out abusing me for, pretty much day in and day out. And so I can also understand having to work with someone who you're on bad terms with as well. So my heart, like I said, my heart goes out to people. And also I know that it's something that you can overcome as well.
Oh my gosh.
It was hard. I totally get it. I hadn't dated these people, but we had at one time been really close, and it just completely deteriorated. And, I dreaded going to work. Every, day was a challenge. But I learned a couple things that I'm going to talk about later that did help me through it.
That's good. That's really
What about
good.
you, Claire?
Yeah. I haven't really experienced this. When my ex-fiance and I broke up, we were living together, and we had like a very rational, calm conversation about who could afford to stay living there, and that was me. And so he also, his parents lived in the area, so he just like moved briefly back home before he found a place on his own. So like that was my experience with that. And then with the toxic ex in Santa Barbara, I just never came back one day. So
well, those are actually good examples. We do hear once in a while that people feel like they have to keep living with their ex, and man, there's so many different circumstances people have. But you know what? Sometimes you have to do whatever you can to find somewhere to stay while you transition, because it really is not the best to stay in the same living quarters as an ex.
Yeah. And it's, like, I know that, like what I did was like very privileged. And I know that a lot of people don't have the resources for that, in that, moving out or like changing jobs or something is sometimes a huge hardship for people. So you're really choosing what your hardship is.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Yeah, exactly. So, your situation. I wrote this down to bring up a little later, but I'll bring it up now. You know your own life. Like, do not just drop everything and move out because we told you to, and you're like, fuck the consequences. Janice and Claire told me to, so I'm going to do this even though it's not financially feasible. Like, whatever decisions you decide to make after listening to this episode are yours alone. Like, we totally understand if some of these things are not options in the short term for you. So please make responsible decisions. Like, make sure you're safe, make sure you have a place to live, like stuff like that. So,
but I also want to encourage people to be resourceful. Sometimes I talk to people, and once you start digging into why they feel like they have to stay living there, they haven't fully explored their options. And sometimes they're in a bit of shock over the whole thing. And making new plans for your life when you're going through a breakup is very difficult, if not almost impossible, because you're so overwhelmed with the breakup. This can be empowering for you. It might seem impossible now, but, get creative and, you might be able to work it out in ways that you hadn't seen before.
Exactly. Yeah. Just saying, we're not responsible for your actions, I guess. Disclaimer. This is just what we would suggest doing, but we're not telling you what to do, sort of thing. Because these are really big life decisions. So, yeah. So first things first, before we get into the episode, like some reassurance for you after that big disclaimer is out of the way. You can make it through this hard time. Like Janice was saying, like this may seem impossible right now, but there is a way through this, and there are options for you. You just haven't found them yet. So you will make it through this. The pain will not last forever. Also, whatever decisions led to this point, like moving in with your ex or like planning all your classes together or whatever, you made the best decision you could at the time. And so don't beat yourself up about like moving in with someone that things didn't end up working out with. You know, you tried your best, and you know, we've all been in that situation or something similar, and you know, it's okay. It's human.
Yeah, especially
as
coaches, you know, I think it's important for us to say, you know, like moving in with somebody is, you know, what you do when you're in love sometimes, and it probably felt, you know, like an amazing choice. Back then. So yes, definitely don't beat yourself up.
Yeah, we hope, and if it wasn't, then you know that's a really good area for growth.
Yeah.
I
mean, I know I'll be thinking twice before moving in with someone ever again, because of having bad experiences. All right, so more little words of wisdom or words of encouragement. You are capable of rising above this. You are capable of beating this. Every problem has some sort of solution. And I know that it's really hard to see your own strength when you're in the midst of something like this, but you absolutely can do it. You know, just take things day by day right now. So it's going to work itself out. No one can take your power away from you unless you allow them to. I know that that is kind of a cliche, but if this is someone who you have to have contact with regularly, you know, you can make a choice whether or not to let them kind of ruin your life or ruin your job or your school experience, or, you know, you can choose to take the power into your own hands. That's also hard to realize when you're going through a breakup. I want to put this out there. It is possible to compartmentalize your feelings and disconnect from certain emotions. Set your feelings aside so that you can focus on the task at hand. And what I mean by this is you can kind of put your feelings, you know, to the side or on a shelf while you work, while you go to your class, while you know, talk about your kids, and then come back to them later. That's something that's taken me a long time to learn. And I know some people will think that that's a ridiculous thing to say because feelings during a breakup are so overwhelming, but you know, you can learn to do that. And I think co-parenting is actually the perfect example of how you can do that, because high conflict co-parenting especially, I mean, there's so many emotions and opinions, and it's a very intense thing to do. And I know that parents learn to do that. You know, I think people still are pissed at their ex and just decide, you know, when we're doing the drop-offs or when we're talking about this, they set it aside and do come back to it. Believe me, I talk to people who do. And, you know, and this is also why coaching and counseling is so useful for some of these situations, is because, you know, that is your safe space to then process how you're feeling about this person, not when you're talking about the kids or not when you're at work. And like I said earlier, you might not see it now, but you probably have more power, more choices, more resources, more options in the situation than you're giving yourself credit for. If you're listening to this because you're going through it, you know, you might totally not be able to see it at all, but you might just want to remind yourself that, and then little by little, you might start to see it. You're not powerless. Yeah.
You're not powerless. Period. Yes.
We have loved creating free and accessible healing resources for people around the world who are looking for support on their breakups, broken hearts, and moving on journeys. Each day, we receive DMs from many of you who have let us know the positive impact X-Files is making in your life. Our vision for the second year of our show is something that we both feel so completely. We are looking forward to continuing to share useful resources each week, but also expanding our offerings to help people go more deeply with their healing and growth.
Part of our vision is expanding the connection with our community. And to do that, we are thrilled to be launching the X-Files Patreon. Growing this aspect of our community will allow us to keep creating great content for everyone each week and also start developing even more healing resources and support. We would love for you to be part of the first group of the X-Files patrons. So head to the link in the show notes now to sign up for either the $5 or the $10 level. And we will both be looking forward to connecting with you very soon. So we brought up no contact earlier. And, no contact, it seems pretty clear, like you're not contacting the person, right? But you can customize no contact for your unique situation. So no contact, but customized. And what that can mean is that if you're co-parenting, there is no contact other than related to the kids and within certain hours if it's, not an emergency.
I've seen people do it. And I've seen people in pretty bad breakups who have kids with their ex who have almost no contact at all. And it's really cool. I mean, I've seen it. I told the story before about someone I know who co-parents, and the only contact they have with their ex is when they actually do the FaceTime and their ex hands the phone to their child. They even have parents helping with the drop-offs. And so they don't have to communicate. And, it's very impressive. It's very possible. It takes a lot of planning,
Yeah. That some planning helps, for sure.
I think some people, even in a co-parenting situation, aren't completely ready to let go. And so it's hard to realize, or even hard to want to go no contact with the person you're co-parenting with because of all the reasons why other people don't want to. Because you're still hanging on to something. You're still, trying to give it to them. But it's, once you decide to bite the bullet, I think you're going to completely set yourself free in a co-parenting situation. And then I also want to put in here, no contact absolutely includes in each one of these situations, no social media. And even if you co-parent, no social media. That still applies. I don't think I can think of a single situation where it benefits you to stay connected on social media.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not necessary. And if you want to work towards being able to be connected on social media, you can do that in the future. But now is not the time. Not while you're healing, not while this is really, really hard.
Good point. So, I've heard people say that somehow they feel like it's better for the kids. And I'm sorry, but I think what's best for everybody is that you both heal and move on from it.
Exactly.
So what if you're living together? If you're living together, customized no contact would look like not hanging out together, not sleeping in the same bed, keeping your life.
Don't sleep in the same bed.
I mean, some people
at least don't do that.
At least don't do that.
Oh,
Set
God.
yourself up with, some separate living quarters while you each figure out what you're going to do. Keep your life separate keep your lives as separate as if you had an awful roommate you never want to see. For me, that looked like I did lots of things outside of the apartment. I went to meetup groups. I went hiking. I did all sorts of stuff to keep myself occupied when I wasn't working. I think I was working at home at the time, and I even sometimes would go and work other places, maybe when no one else was going to be home, and then a lot of time in my bedroom, I will say, and that was hard for me, but it helped while I figured out my next move.
Yeah.
If you work together, keep all contact to work hours and only about things that are absolutely necessary for your job function. So chances are, or yeah, statistically, you probably aren't collaborating on daily on projects. So keep the conversation to the bare minimum. No water cooler talk. No, taking jabs at the person. No angry looks. No sexy looks. No emails.
No shit talking with other coworkers.
Yeah, I would
too.
definitely consider that
might
contact.
be really tempting.
We're gonna talk about other ways that you can talk shit about this person, which might be therapeutic, but yes, not to coworkers.
Yeah, just not with your fellow coworkers.
And no outside texts. I, often talk to people who work with their ex, and again, once you start digging, you do find out that they're communicating about a bunch of other stuff other than work.
Yeah.
And that they're still, texting outside of work and still keeping the emotions really high by having actually a lot more contact than they're letting on in the beginning.
Yeah. And it's, not to shame anyone. We're not trying to do that. We're just saying, like, we see you, and it's not an excuse.
And this is an example of how you have more power and options and decisions than you think that you do. You actually probably still have room to cut out a lot of contact and make things a lot easier for yourself. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, especially if you are someone who has been in communication with your ex, you can say, hey, I'm having trouble with the breakup. I would like us to only talk about work topics within work hours. I don't want to be texting you anymore. Please leave me alone in that respect. And that person should respect that.
Well, in many cases, they have to.
Yeah.
If you're working together, depending on, the company or where you live or what the laws are, they might be, legally obligated to give you space if you ask for it.
Yeah, because none of that stuff is within a professional relationship. When you start developing friendships with your coworkers, like, that's great, and like it's good to have social support wherever you are, but there are rules that don't apply to your friends that are outside of workplaces. So now your ex is under that umbrella. So some tips for navigating this time. The same advice that applies to any breakup also applies here. So you want to prioritize meaningful time with people who are supportive. That's going to be really important for your brain chemistry. It's going to be really important for like using your time. So you're not just like bored and lonely and you're like, well, let me talk to my ex. Plan things with people who love you and who are supportive.
If you're spending this much amount of time in environments where you have to have contact with your ex, then I think it's really important to have big chunks of other time when you aren't around them or thinking about it, rather than just work and then home alone dwelling on it. Work, home alone dwelling on it. It's good, to plan in other things, and then you get used to having lots of time where you're not thinking about it.
Yeah. You also want to go full send on self-care. The Elite Daily article, 4 Tips for Nursing a Broken Heart When You Have to See Your Ex Every Day, states, self-care looks different for everyone. What it comes down to is meeting your own needs. So that can mean doing your laundry or making sure you have a clean room to come home to. It could mean finally hanging those pictures you've been meaning to hang in order to make your space feel like home. It can also be as simple as just showering and brushing your teeth every morning at the same time to cultivate a pattern. When your life seems to have exploded and you crave the normalcy you had before your breakup, having an established pattern can provide some relief in terms of finding familiarity in your day. So this doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be bubble baths and ice cream and we do really encourage self-care walks, but you don't have to go crazy with this and be like buying $30 candles and shit. Like, to do self-care, it can be as simple as like doing the basic maintenance on yourself that you really probably don't feel like doing right now.
Yeah, that's good advice. I think maybe having something in your self-care routine or in your daily routine that you do right after you have to have contact with this person might also really help to soften the blow and also reprogram your brain so that it knows that even if you have to see the person, you're going to be having some sort of relief, when it's over. For instance, if it were me, it would be like, maybe not every day, but maybe in the beginning, going from work to, somewhere out to eat, or somewhere to have like a drink while I decompress for the day. You could do that like right after school or work, or when you do the drop-offs with your kids, or maybe right after work going on the walk, or going somewhere that feels enriching.
And you could also do that beforehand. Like, I just thought about Ted Lasso with Rebecca, how she had that one that one episode where she said, when I'm about to like walk into a room of men that I know are going to be like intimidating, because she's a football club owner, as a woman is like a little intimidating to walk into some of those rooms. She said she would go into the bathroom and she would get up on her tiptoes and open her arms as big as she could and roar like a lion in order to like pump herself up and like give herself protection and kind of like an energy to embody. And so the same thing for work or something, like maybe you're waiting in your car before you go in and you go, I'm a fucking powerful badass boss babe, like I can't be distracted by this stupid little person who I used to date. And
very much so. Yeah, in fact, I was going to talk about doing this kind of like symbolic energy filled later down on the list. That's a great tip for sure. And again, that goes back to,
let's circle back.
Yes, we will. But Claire, it's a good example of how, taking back your power and not giving it to your ex by doing something like that.
Exactly.
That's a great idea.
Exactly.
So, more tips. Look at your options. Once things aren't so fresh and the breakup brain isn't so prevalent, it's time to troubleshoot the situation, action planning, troubleshooting, taking back your power. Look at your options. But you might not want to or be able to do this before you are through the breakup brain stage. I think this could be a good reason why just going and crashing with a friend for a couple weeks, if you're living with your ex, just so that you just automatically have somewhere to go, so that you don't have to really think about leases and apartments and moving. Just 2 weeks crash with someone and then make all the decisions later. So refresher on breakup brain. If you happen to be new to X-Files, or if you just haven't thought about it in a while, breakup brain. People can experience physical and cognitive disruptions after a breakup. Some examples include muscle aches, like a sore back or throwing your back out, memory loss, loss of appetite, increased anxiety, inability to concentrate, difficulty making decisions, forgetfulness, unusual levels of anger, trouble sleeping, feeling exhausted, and one more is racing or obsessive thoughts.
Racing thoughts. Yeah. Oh, completely. A 2010 study out of Northwestern University examined multiple groups of students and found that those who had experienced a breakup also experienced a significant loss of perception around their sense of self, which is really interesting. They found that the students who went through a breakup during the study were found to use words like confused, uncertain, bewildered more often than those who didn't. So, like, really showing not probably the best time to be like signing leases. Like, yeah.
Since breakup brain can have such an impact, there is a lot of evidence in support of waiting to make big decisions about your living situation or job. But once you feel more stable, look at your situation. Let's start to look at our options here. Getting creative, being a grown-up, learning about self-resilience and self-reliance. That was really big for me. I also stayed in really bad situations and really took away my own power because of thinking that the only option was the situation that I was in. And learning to be resourceful has been really great for me. So, some examples. If you are living together, see what your options are financially. Can you move out? If you are on speaking terms with your ex, is it possible for them to move out? I also want to put in here, not everybody is on a joint lease. So if you are the one on the lease, or if your ex had moved in with you, this is going to sound harsh, but can you
kick them out?
You're broken up. I often give the example of when I split up from my husband. We were on the lease together, and look, you know what? I one day was just like, you're gone. You're not coming back here. And I just absolutely put my foot down, and it helped me so much.
Yeah.
I know people don't want to do that because they don't want to be mean or this, that, and the other, but it's time to put yourself first.
Yeah. Yeah. And, like we were talking about earlier, there is sacrifices and there are hardships, like with the toxic ex, like the reason why I was able to just leave and not come back is because I chose the hardship of moving back in with my parents for a little bit, which was 45 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on the time of day from where I was going to college. So, and like living with parents after you haven't been is kind of a bummer. And I was able to then, find another option where I was like, half an hour when the traffic was good from my school. And, that was hard, but it was also really good for me because like I was actually, pretty scared of this guy, like tracking me down and stuff. And so being able to be living in a different city, where it wouldn't be easy to like follow me home from school or something was actually really positive for me. So, you choose your hardship.
I think
right?
a lot of times when people stay stuck in bad situations with their ex because they're more like prioritizing comfort or convenience over making some hard decisions. And that could be like, well, it's really close to where I work or it's really close to where I go to school. So, I just really like living here. Or, people who don't want to say no to going to certain parties because they don't want to make this friend upset, even though they know their ex is going to be there. Or they really wanted to do this one specific random thing that really wasn't that important in the grand scheme of things because they didn't want to sit it out over having to see their ex and then actually be miserable after. And sometimes, these things happen as adults and we have to live with some inconvenience for a while, make hard decisions, make other people uncomfortable, make ourselves uncomfortable to be, better and healthier in the long run.
Exactly. Yeah, I think a lot of people most humans, the more comfortable thing is to deal with the devil rather than risk it all on the devil you don't know. But it doesn't have to be a devil. Like, it could just be that it actually was a much better situation for you to leave. You just don't know that until you do it. So if you work together or maybe you're in school together, can you ask for accommodations from HR or from your professors? Maybe there's a class at a different time you could switch to. So instead of going on Tuesdays at 9 a.m., you take the same exact class. You just switch to the Wednesday at 4 p.m., Maybe... maybe there's a different project for you to focus on.
I was
What
just
were
going
you
to say, I
gonna
had someone close to me who did break up with someone and they went to the same college. And she did, she went to the administration and just said, I want to make sure that our schedules are different. It had been a bad breakup, and they worked with her to make sure that, I don't exactly know how they did this, because for privacy reasons for her ex, but they were able to give her a schedule that ensured that they wouldn't really be around each other. She also went and she applied for a certain job on campus that would allow her to basically work in the girls' gym or something. And she told them what was going on. And, people actually totally worked with her on it. Remember that the administration at your school works for you. I mean, they're there to make your experience a good one. And so, use them as one of the resources.
Yeah. And as humans, they probably really understand what you're going through. And they're like, like, I want to be understanding because someone was understanding for me, or I want someone to be understanding for me in the future. Yeah. So, same with work. Like, I know we got one where it was like, oh, we're working on this big project at work together, so I'm stuck with them. It's like, well, maybe you're not. Like, maybe this is the time that you actually consider transferring to the Chicago office, or, something like that. So you have more options. It's just sometimes it feels like there is no other option other than just continuing with the status quo. But that's that.
And this is going back again to not letting the other person take your power and to looking at everything that's actually in front of you. Sometimes, it might take a little bit of discomfort, and going to HR or going to your manager and being proactive about saying, I'm having a hard time focusing on this. This is what has happened. Can we work together to come up with a solution? And I know I've talked to people who don't want to do that because they're embarrassed. And I mean, who wants to sit down with HR, and who wants to talk to their manager about their breakup? Yes, I do get that. And sometimes, it, like I said, momentary discomfort to help you in the long run. Sometimes it's worth it. And also, if you do have an HR department, again, that's what they're there for. Yeah, is to, to continue good business practices and make sure that it's not to make sure that you're like so happy and you get everything you want. Their priority is to make sure that the business is efficient and makes the most money, and it's not very efficient if you can't do your work. And then going back to work, I don't know as much school, but maybe, can you take a few days off? Can you take a week off? Can you work from home? Again, look at your options. Regardless if you work with your ex or not, if you are going through a bad breakup and struggling with breakup brain and having a hard time functioning, should be treated just the same as with any other injury or illness. If you have sick days, you are absolutely allowed to use them for this. If you have mental health days, taking time off of work might be a game changer. Giving yourself a little space from this person, even if it's a week, might help to make it easier once you go back. And also, you've got to look after yourself. So taking time off work, I think, is really good for breakups.
Yeah, taking time off of work. And then with school, like maybe that is an option. Like I know a lot of schools are hybrid now after COVID. True. So it's like kind of like you have the choice to go in or watch the Zooms. You could really, like for the next quarter or next semester, you could try to arrange like a study abroad program. So then you're like not even in the same school or country anymore.
Yeah, there are so many options with college these days, especially with, the flexible learning. Yeah. And you said something though that stood out to me, and that is your choice to go in many cases. I sometimes talk to people and they'll say, but I like going to this place, or I don't want them to take that away from me, or, I enjoy doing this and they're there. What should I do? And it's like, this is temporary. I know you might enjoy it, But, if you're struggling so much with your breakup right now, again, sometimes it takes making a hard decision. Sometimes it takes altering your life or your schedule and doing whatever you need to do to get over this. And if you're choosing to put yourself in this situation, you need to recognize and maybe even take your power back in that way and say, I chose to do this, and so I'm not going to let them get to me. And I understand that it's a choice. Or, choose not to do it for a few weeks or a few months.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, you might like the places you discover more from you love going to this place, you're a regular there, and now it's awkward with your ex. And you're like, oh man, so sad I have to give up this place. But in going somewhere else, you realize this is way better actually over here. This is actually way nicer, way more fun than I was having before at my old place, So
not having the stress of whether or not you're going to run into them just will make it better.
It will make it better. I promise. So time apart is very important. If you're living together, maximize your time elsewhere. Maybe it's time to visit your hometown, to take that travel opportunity at work, to make sure that you're planning activities for the evenings to get yourself out of the house.
Yeah, again, get creative. So this is something that a coach talked to me about when I was going through my bad living situation. And this tip is basically what Claire said earlier, creating a symbolic or an energetic fortress around yourself. So I was working with a coach. I was in this bad living situation after my divorce. And I was working with a coach to try and help me get my life back on track. And so we were talking about the fact that things had deteriorated with the people I was living with and that I was just really miserable being in that apartment. And she talked to me about not just going in my room, but kind of visualizing really lovely surroundings and, creating a special name for my room. And I still actually have kind of a picture of what it was that I came up with. And, I'm a big flowers person. And so I said, my room is going to be my secret garden. And I was just, picture flowers and trees around me. And it made me feel more relaxed to know that I was going home. And then once I was in there, I felt a bit more relaxed. I kept it really clean. I made my bed a really cozy place to work on so that I could even work in there more than I was before. And it didn't solve the problem, but it made it easier for me. And then Claire's idea of, physically doing something that kind of creates a fortress around you when you know that you have to be around them can be really, really useful. And again, something that people it might be outside of your comfort zone to do this again, but just try it. Like all of these things, it's trial and error when you're dealing with a broken heart.
Yeah. You can visualize, building a disco ball around you of mirrors. Because then anything that hits a mirror bounces back at those people. So you can visualize that when you're, before you walk into a situation where you're going to see your ex, or maybe, it's just someone you don't really like and you're like, wow, this episode is really helpful for me right now. You can visualize that you're inside of a disco ball and you're kind of watching people throw their own shit at your mirrors, and it just bounces back at them and never gets to you. So that's another visualization you could try.
Yeah, I like that one. Yeah. So this is one tip that I give a lot for people who have to, I guess, have any contact with their ex, and that is affirmations. You are going to really be glad that you chose a certain affirmation to put everywhere, put on your phone, put in your car so that you see it, put in your notebook, put on your mirror, that you can really, really embody to help you get into a different frame of mind when you have to see your ex. And I would say, my suggestion would be to pick one or two that you use for this very specific situation. Claire came up with some great ones. 1, I am a professional. I am focused and excellent at my job, no matter the circumstances. That is great for taking your power back as far as if you choose to stay in your job, then really own it.
Yeah.
Another one. This too shall pass.
Oldie but a goodie.
Yes, that's true. I love telling people this is temporary. I know that it is. 3, I accept that I am growing into my best self.
Some more options, more ideas. The best thing is that it will only get better and better from here. So this is your rock bottom. Great. That's a wonderful foundation to grow from. This one, my Reiki master taught me, because it's important to like disconnect from people after you give them Reiki. You don't want to just be like linked after that. You are you and I am me. It's like your ex is your ex. You are you. Their emotions and whatever they're throwing at you is theirs. It doesn't impact who you are. And it's like remembering that we and us it's not in the equation anymore. You are you. I am me. I am willing to feel only the energy that is mine, and I let go of all that is not mine. So, that's especially, I think, pertinent for, maybe you did the breaking up and you're really struggling with, all the like sadness and like grief that your ex is feeling, and they're sharing that with you constantly, and like you're having trouble differentiating between like what is your energy and what is their energy.
That's why no contact is so useful, because you become entangled energetically with a person when you're with them.
Exactly. You want it to be your journey of healing. You don't want it to be their like influenced by whatever their process is.
Yes, completely. Something that just came to me as a tip is to kind of remember your dignity. And I know that I'm not saying to dwell on what other people think, but if you are co-parenting, going to school, working with your ex, it is important to maybe think about how you're being perceived in the situation. I think that this helps, especially if you're in a professional environment, and that might help you to make better decisions, because you do have to think about how you're being perceived when you're working. And if you're a mess constantly, or if you're really letting it get to you, this can impact your performance, and it can impact your ability to do your job function, which that is something to keep in mind, I think. Another tip, journaling about maybe your anger or your feelings or how hard it is. I think if you can set your feelings aside for the day, like I was saying earlier about compartmentalizing, and then maybe like right after work or right after you do the drop off, just journaling about how hard it was, journaling about how you felt, journaling about ugly feelings or thoughts that you have, and getting it out of your system that way, it could be a really big relief, because these situations are so overwhelming. So get out your journal and just go to town. I mean, if you're listening to this, you're probably, got some pretty strong emotions about what's happening when you see this person.
Yeah. Better out than in. So.
Yeah, exactly. And just, just tell yourself at 5 p.m., I can get out my journal and let all these feelings out, but I'm not going to do it now. Another tip that I learned when I was going through the toxic work situation is, and you have to do this very carefully, so let me put that out there. But if you are able to message a friend during the day when you're in the situation, it can be really, really useful and therapeutic. And it can help you to just like kind of immediately get out the emotions and the feelings. And you can feel a lot of relief right away. Like if your ex walks by, if you have someone who you are able to send a message to about that, you might find that the emotions don't really pile up the way that they would if you just have to sit with your own thoughts all day long.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. That does make sense. I think, venting, it serves a purpose.
Yeah, exactly. And same with the
doing
journaling. So I had a friend
Yeah.
who knew the situation really, really well. And, we would text quite a bit or DM on our computers, like quite a bit during the day. And I cannot tell you how much it helped. It made me feel so much better. And, my boss was horrible. And so being able to tell someone about that, it allowed me the sanity to get through every day.
Yeah, just releasing a little bit of the pressure. So then, like, the next time your boss did something, you were like, okay.
Well, and knowing that somebody else,
Dubious.
completely agreed, this person knew my boss as well.
Yeah.
And it made me just feel better every single time. And to have someone validate what you're going through is really sometimes all that it takes to, get through the situation.
Yeah, I agree. So I hope that was a helpful episode for you guys. Like, at the end of the day, you are building your own life. You make decisions for you. You know what's best for you. But I think we're just encouraging you to not just accept your situation for what it is, and instead, like, actually look at all your options before you make the decision. Like, oh, this is what I have to do. It's like, maybe not, but check out those options first before you make the decision on, like, choosing a harder path to healing. I don't think that it's impossible to heal in these less than perfect situations where, like, you're working together, you're going to school together, or like you have to live together for a certain period of time. Like, the living together, like, I feel like you're probably not gonna get over each other until you move out, but like, you can make it through that time. If you have to do that, if you've looked at all your options and you're like, you know what, this is actually like what I actually have to do right now. But I know, 3 months from now, I can move out.
I mean, you were
Okay,
never going
like-
to stay living there forever, most likely anyway.
Yeah.
There's something that you can do, even if you say you're going to take the month or you're going to take 2 weeks to crash with your friend. Yes, just please do whatever you need to do to get out of that living situation. Absolutely. Oh, and then I also want to say, this is the beginning of your new life as a single person, and think of it that way. You want to be taking back your power. You want to be building up your strength. And you don't want to just, like Claire said, accept the situation, wallow in your powerlessness. You want to reclaim all of that and set the stage for this amazing new chapter of your life.
Aww,
so good luck with everything.
love
Like we
it.
said before, coaching can be a real game changer when it comes to situations like this. And so please let us know if one-on-one support might be useful for you. And if you want to support us, please head to our Patreon, become a member. We're going to be upping that all summer long. We would really appreciate it. It helps us to continue to do the podcast and to create more offerings for you.
Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to your ears very soon.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to X-Files, a podcast about breakups, broken hearts, and moving on.
If you liked this episode, please help others find us by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or by following the show on Spotify.
And if you'd like to connect more with us and learn about breakup coaching, find us on Instagram at X-Files Podcast.